estoy feliz de poder conversar con una mujer a la que admiro. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for being here in Mexico and for sharing this time with me. Right after getting this award, a Lifetime Achievement Award, let's talk about that. I mean, this life of success, because you knew since you were a girl that you wanted to be an actress. But did you imagine back then that you would come this far?
I mean, no, of course. I mean, how could you? I sort of had a dream to be an actress. I wanted to be an actress, but the idea in Australia of actually cultivating a career that could last you a lifetime, that was, I mean, that just wasn't something that you could fall back on. So my parents were always like, okay, well, that's a dream, but let's face the reality. The reality is, what do you want to do? You should be a doctor, you should be a lawyer. So but then I got my first role when I was 14, and I continued to work. I mean, I had to work hard at it, but things started to happen. And then when I was 19, I was able to put a down payment on an apartment, and that's when my parents went, this might be actually working out for her.
It did.
Yeah. As soon as I had somewhere to live, they were like, okay.
Let's see, you haven't stopped working since then. Of course, this success is because you're very talented, beautiful, but also you've worked very hard. I mean, there's a lot of effort behind.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's, I mean, I was talking to my mother and I was saying, you know, oh, well, but things have been so good for me. She says I always see things through rose-colored glasses, which I suppose I do. But she's like, no, you have to remember, Nicole, every opportunity you've had to work so hard for. And I'm like, actually, yeah, even auditioning or then having to create roles or find roles that weren't just one-dimensional or seek out directors who were really interesting. I'm willing to always try my best and to work to do the best that I can. If it ultimately doesn't work, the film or the play or whatever it is artistically I'm involved in, it's not for lack of trying.
The killing of a sacred deer.
Yes.
One more thriller with one of the queens of suspense. How was it to work with Lantinos?
You know, for me it was, I love working with directors who are so unusual and really push the boundaries. And Yorgos is Greek. He has an incredible mind. He knows pretty much every film that's been made. He's very, very well read, so he's extremely intellectual, and that's my kind of guy.
Would you talk to me a little about all this work you've done to empower other women?
I mean, I was raised by a feminist. I remember my mom in the early 70s going to what we called at the time the Women's Lib movement. And I was a little girl and I would sit at the back of the room listening to all these women sort of drinking coffee, smoking, talking. And it was a movement, a strong, strong movement, all women. And I think that probably I was raised by a woman who had to fight for her rights. And so she raised my sister and I to be advocates for women. And you know, right now, obviously, there's a massive wave of support for women and for women's rights, but it doesn't mean that things have changed enormously. Obviously, we still all have, the sisterhood still has to work together to make the changes so that everybody prospers from it, because it's not just women that prosper. Ultimately, it's the community, it's the society, because when women are successful and happy in what they do, the family does well. Everybody does well.
The whole community.
Yeah.
Actually, well, yes, women have the right to be safe. Big Little Lies. You show the brutal violence against women. That's something that you've also fought against.
Yeah, like probably about, I think it was about 15 years ago when I first started working for UN Women, which was, and the platform that I started to really be involved in was eradicating violence against women. and I traveled all over the world with them, supporting those, I suppose, those rights and the work that the women are doing, particularly at the UN, to try and advocate for the laws and the protection worldwide, globally. It's a very slow process, obviously. And then something like Big Little Lies, that's dealing with abuse, but it's dealing with domestic abuse, and it's dealing with a very particular type of domestic abuse, which is an affluent woman who stays in a relationship that is so destructive to her and her children, and still stays. And the psychology behind that and the understanding of why she stays was really difficult to portray, but it seems to have connected with people where there certainly seems to be.
How was it to be both an actress but a producer as well with this Big Little Lies?
It was amazing because it was being in a position of being able to create opportunities for Reese Witherspoon, who produced it. We produced it together with our producing partners, and to be able to say to each other, we're the ones controlling this production and the outcome of this production, be able to pick up the phone and say, we want to cast this person, we want this person to direct it. To have that power was fabulous.
You like power.
Well, it was really lovely to be able to make decisions as a collective that were well thought out, where we could save money, we could choose to lose a location because it was too expensive. We could make logical decisions that directly impacted the production. We were actually able to produce it rather than being sort of a token producer. We were hands-on doing it from the beginning, when we found the book, all the way through to the release of it. That's really unusual. And for it to be the success that it was has really created more opportunities, I think, for more people to do it.
Part of being powerful and successful is being also complete. And you somehow managed to be, yes, successful at work, you help other people, but you are successful at home as well. I mean, you find the time to be with your children and your family. How do you deal with that?
Because I suppose early on I was given, I've had many great people in my life who have stepped in and given me sort of pearls of wisdom at different times. I've had great mentors. And early on I realized I just wasn't the party girl. I wasn't the girl that was going to be going out and, in the club until 3, 4 a.m. That just wasn't me. I love being married. I love having my family and my children. I love doing my work. But I pretty much go home when I finished working, and I put all of my effort into my family and all of my time into them. And I'm willing to do that. Does it mean I miss out on sometimes some of the great, the fun parties? Yes, probably. I miss out on those opportunities. But I get to go home and I get to raise my 6 and 9-year-old, and I'm very, very close to them, my little girls, and I get to really have the intimate relationship that I want with my husband, and that's where I put my time. And I think when you know that as a person, what's important to you, then you're able to manage things.
You're actually bringing them here.
I hope to. We love the beach, and we love being together. We love family vacations, so this is a perfect place for us.
Well, yes, I hope you come back to Mexico finally. We've been through very hard moments in Mexico since the earthquakes. Is there a message that you would like to share with the people that lost everything, but also with the people who helped? Because, see, all of a sudden, the whole country was immersed in a very inspiring solidarity. What would you tell them?
I mean, I think we all know that this world is based on taking care of each other. And you never know when you're going to need it. So the idea of being able to give to other people and help other people and give more than you're comfortable with, because that's so much a part of it. I always say, giving is not what you're comfortable doing, giving is what you're uncomfortable doing. Give more, because then you're really giving. And I think when you see the strength of community, you see the strength of what we can do together. And that's beautiful. It's how I was raised. My mother's always been that way. She would take people into our home and they would be able to stay with us if they had no money. My father was a psychologist, and when people couldn't afford to pay, he would say, I'll treat you for nothing. You'll make it up to me someday. And that's just the type of family that I come from. And I think that when you remember that, and that's, you never know when you're going to need help, and you never know when you're going to have to give help.
Thank you very much for coming to Mexico,
I'm
for
happy
caring,
to be here.
and for coming back, because
Yeah.
we hope you will.
Yes.
We'd love to have you back here.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very, very much.